how do we feel? Is live action really the best move? Converse.
So I feel like I was really, really excited when I heard they're like, oh my gosh, we're doing a Zelda movie. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And I was talking to people at work about it. And then they were like, oh, no, it's live action. And I said, what? They're like, yeah, it's live action. And I think my excitement for this movie dropped by like 25% once I realized that it wasn't animated. Because once I heard that the Spider-Verse, the people that worked on Spider-Verse were doing a Zelda movie, I thought, guys, this is going to go crazy. Can you imagine the animation quality of Across the Spider-Verse, but it's Zelda?
Don't set me up for that kind of hope.
That would be...
Don't do it.
That would be like the movie... That'd be insane. That'd be another level. But... now that we're doing it in live action, I'm just a little concerned because we've never done that before. You know, like even Mario we've done in live action before. Like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was partially live action. We've never done that with Zelda. I feel like you might not be setting yourself up for success by saying, oh, it's live, it's got to be real, it's this and that. But it also, this is my opinion on like live action versus animation as a whole, is live action can go really, really well if you don't try to rely on like visual effects. So I feel like this movie could be phenomenal if they do it super practically. If they're like on location in these gorgeous places and they're all in full costume and they build Hyrule, they build their own Hyrule and it's just gorgeous, like, and it's super well directed, then like what's there to complain about? You know, if it's gorgeous, then how can I complain about that? That's kind of like the same thing as like Lord of the Rings. You know, the animated Lord of the Rings are great, but like the real ones, the real movies where it's just gorgeous landscape, it's all practical, the costumes are super convincing, there's no like reliance, there's not really a reliance on VFX and CGI, and then you compare that to The Hobbit, where, you know, the story was kind of stretched out more than it needed to be. There was a lot of visual effects that they tried to make look good. It's not as good. And so I think if the intention is to be like, yeah, we're going to make this a VFX blockbuster, then just do it animated at that point. Why are you taking the time to do it live action if you're going to create the entire movie in the edit room anyway? So I feel like I can't decide if animation or live action is better until we know the true direction and see like a trailer of like, is this going to be a VFX blockbuster or is this going to be super grounded and it's like really like they do like practical fight scenes and like, you know, I don't know. I can't say. My first inclination is animated would be better because Zelda's known for its like various animation styles. But I don't know. Maybe they needed a whole, maybe this is what they need to do to separate it from games and say, hey, we're not trying to like do an adaptation of Wind Waker. We're not trying to do, you know, the Breath of the Wild movie. We need it fully separate from that. Maybe that's what has to happen for that to disconnect in an audience member's brain. But I can't really take a stance until I see it. But that's generally how I feel. Where do you land on this?
I've said it a little bit. I honestly would have loved an animated Zelda movie. I think the art style that Zelda's always tried to go for has never been uber realistic, because there are games out there like The Witcher that are really realistic, so that's why a live action works, because you're not changing that much. Whereas with Zelda, I'm not going to say it has a cartoony style. There are the games that do have cartoony styles like Wind Waker, Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass. And those have the cartoony art style, but the games overall have never tried to be this realistic, like, Witcher, Skyrim type game.
Like, even Uncharted, like
Right.
Uncharted is not air quote realistic, I guess not, but it's also not cartoony. So,
Exactly.
a animated live action, animated Uncharted wouldn't feel right.
I think, to your point, the only way the live action Zelda movie works and looks good is if they essentially make it Lord of the Rings. Because we watched Lord of the Rings for an episode last year, and one of the biggest things we talked about, even for Pirates of the Caribbean, was that they used a lot of practical stuff, and that's what made it feel so timeless, is all of the orcs in Lord of the Rings were people in makeup and prosthetics and physical costumes to be the orcs. They weren't just a giant army of CGI monsters. And all of their sword fights, very practical. All of the fights, very practical. The locations, practical. They built those sets. They went to those places. That is the kind of dedication I expect from a Zelda movie, is physically building sets, physically going to locations, like teaching whoever plays Link how to sword fight, having physical sword fights that have real choreography and not just we're swinging swords around. That's what I want and expect from a live action movie, because if you're not going to do animated where you can go really over the top with everything, you got to have it be a lot more grounded and realistic, because to your point, if it's just going to be a VFX showcase, just make it animated at that point.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in having a live action side to it. Now, I do think they're going live action because they don't want it to come off as a kiddie movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because while the Mario movie isn't a kid's movie, it's a family movie, it does have that connotation. And unfortunately, animation does have that stigma of being for a younger audience, a younger demographic, despite the fact that anime, which is animation, it's literally a shortened word for animation, has taken over the world and is not for kids. Live action is the more like adult, mature type thing. And it is reinforcing that stereotype that animation is for kids. And while I don't personally ascribe to that, I know Jackson doesn't personally ascribe to that, I can acknowledge that that's why they're doing it, or at least part of why they're doing it. I think Miyamoto has probably had a vision, and as a creative person, I'm not one to step on that vision, because I have my own stuff that I've written, and I have a very clear vision in my head of how that's supposed to look, so I couldn't imagine people on the internet telling me that my vision, the one who created this thing, is wrong.
Right.
So that's another like shift in my attitude is, who am I to tell the creator of Zelda that his vision for his thing is wrong?
Yeah.
Because I think if Miyamoto wanted an animated movie and told Nintendo I want an animated movie, they would have made it an animated movie. They asked him what he wanted.
He says
and he
jump.
chose live action.
He says jump, you say how high. Like this is his thing. Yeah, that's a good perspective too. It's just like he's the guy in the chair. Like he's in charge and he knows what he's doing. And so like he obviously has a vision for it. I just really hope it's a good vision, you know? Because there's sometimes creators of stuff like they're like, "Oh, this is just my vision." We're like, "Yeah, but was it a good one?" Like, I don't know about
he has
that.
a good vision. I think it's going to come down to
The execution.
writer, director, producer, cast. It's going to be on the other people
because a good
to
vision,
really make it work.
Because a good vision can only take you so far. The magic is in the execution. Like, will they actually get to do that? Will they actually get to go to sets or not? Like, actually go build sets, actually go to locations? Like, how will that be executed? And even if you are at those locations, how are you shooting your movie to be honorable to that location? You know, because you can make the worst movie ever in the most beautiful location. You know, the location doesn't make a movie. If your script sucks, your movie sucks. So it's just kind of like everyone as a collaborative effort needs to come together.